Welcome. We're glad you're with us. And today's discussion will be about winning and keeping a military band job. And not just about winning and keeping it, but about the ins and outs, about what happens within it. I'm thrilled to have some amazing people joining me for this presentation. And if you didn't get to observe last week's, this program's genesis came from COVID's motivation, trying to help us provide a scenario for our conservatory kids here that would not be, I shouldn't say kids, amazing adults, but I'm 52, so they're all 30. But it's educational opportunity that we just wanted to take 10 or 12 pragmatic, real life discussions that could enhance these degrees while we're kind of treading water musically. So we wanted to take that opportunity. Those of you that know Joe Parisi knows he's the greatest colleague on the planet. I'm going to turn it over to him. And Joe, take us from here.
Well, thank you, Steve. And I'm so delighted to have this panel with us today. Not only do we all have connections with them in some capacity, we've been co-workers with them, teachers of some of them, and they have been inspirational to us as they've traversed this path to be part of a military career. And we're going to get into it a little bit more because not every person's path has been the same, and we'll allude to that as we move along. But I'm just going to simply introduce them and tell you what part of the military they are with and what group, and I'll have them just wave to you and say, hey, and then we will start working through the questions. Kevin Gibo is with Pershing's Own Ceremonial and Army Herald Trumpets. And I've known Kevin for a great deal, as has Professor Davis, both through ties at Michigan and when he was a high school student playing in our church. That's a while ago. So Kevin, welcome.
Thank you.
We have Francis Franke, who we both know again through teaching and as his long career as a band director and playing with Disney. He's with the U.S. Army Old Guard Fife and Drum Corps. I will say he was a student of Professor Davis's, but Professor Davis started teaching when he was 18, so it's not that bad. Frankie, say hi. We refer to this as Frankie. Next is Ryan Nolan, who's the President's Own United States Marine Band Assistant Director and has had a great career in arranging and roots in Ohio as a band director. And Ryan, we're delighted to have you today.
Thank you.
And I say the best for last because she's one of our alum from the conservatory. Laura, we love you. This is Laura Zitelli, who's with the U.S. Navy Concert and Ceremonial Band. She is the rookie of the bunch, so she can give you some like, this is what I thought, this is what happened, and here is where I am now. Say hi, Laura.
Hello.
And we're just going to jump in. Our students, over 100 students submitted questions, and what we tried to do is encapsulate some of the main themes from those questions and provide them with our committee members, our panel members. And where they lead us, but we're going to go down some of the questions that came up a lot from all these folks, and Steve and I will pass it back and forth through the committee. So Steve, I'd like to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Joe. So when we were analyzing these questions, we tried, and it's not perfect, but we tried to put them in chronological order, like how a student would go through the potentiality of making a military band and spending a life doing that opportunity. So the first question, and I'm going to send this over to Ryan, because you may know about protocols with how this goes up, is put into real practice. How are our students at the conservatory, or how are any students anywhere supposed to find these announcements of vacancies?
Sure. Well, again, thank you for having me on this panel today. Thrilled to be a part of this. There are a lot of different avenues where students can find vacancies. The most efficient way and the quickest way is to follow those service bands, all of our sister service bands here in DC, on their Facebook, their Twitter, or through their websites. The vacancies pop there immediately. Beyond that, each own organization has alternative, or additional, I should say, methods of advertising their vacancies through different conservatories, different networks of teachers and professors, different international magazines, things like that. But as the future is upon us, most things happen via social media now, and that's where students can find the information quickest.
Anyone want to add? That's pretty straightforward. Is there anything? Kevin?
Just something new that we've recently started that is in its infancy, but it's mainly used for a gaming platform. It's called Discord. But we've set up a United States Army Band Pershing Zone Discord, and we've created a channel for each instrument or voice part or whatever within that. And prospective students, whatever, can find us. And I'm the trumpet guy. We have someone set up for each instrument, and they can reach out with questions and directly talk with a member of the band one-on-one, ask specific questions. And it's just an additional way we're trying to have interaction with prospective members or people that just have no clue and have questions and are afraid to ask. It's a, don't be afraid to ask. Find it, reach out. We're happy to answer any of your questions.
And that's on the webpage?
It's so new, I don't think so. I will find out the exact link, get it to one of you guys. I pulled it up just now. The title seems to be U.S. Army Band Pershing Zone as the group name. So I think if you search that and find that, that'll direct you properly.
That's great. And anyone offer or anything else that you all know? So if we look at, now I want to audition, I found the vacancy. What tips, and I'm going to start with Laura since you just did this, and then maybe turn it over to Frankie, and then you all have different perspectives. You're listening to auditions, you're in sections, but Laura, you just went through this. So recording an audition, what kind of tips do you have for our students? From everything from setting it up to how you present yourself and prepare, what's some tips you can give them?
So actually, I've taken some recorded auditions, but the audition that I won was actually a live audition.
Okay.
So from my experience though, recording, I took some Army Band auditions, and those are always, the first round seem to be recorded. So it'd be nice to hear, Kevin, what you have to say about that. But I would just say, like, setting up, you want to find a spot that's obviously quiet, where you can make the best sound and hopefully not be interrupted. And then I would just say one thing that I learned from recording myself is that I have to do it all the time, like even when I'm not preparing for an audition, and that's how I get the best results. And so even though it's like one extra step you have to take sometimes by doing a recorded audition, you really do learn a lot, and so you can implement that into your actual practicing, like just on a daily basis. But I'd like to hear what Kevin has to say about this, because that's kind of more what you guys do, correct?
Yeah, for first rounds, almost always we do a tape, and you nailed it on the head, which is why you have a job. You record regularly and often, and it's not like a one-time thing. My biggest pet peeve with the tapes that we get are a large percentage of them are not great, and it's not because the individual is not a great player. I don't think, because you can hear there's talent in there. It's I don't know what it is exactly, but people I find don't spend the amount of detail on these tapes that needs to be there, because it's an audition. It's what we listen. We just had another tape sent in. We got 90 tapes, and you can tell within the first excerpt if you're gonna have someone come out or not. And we keep listening. You don't discard the tape, but a decision's kind of already made. So with the technology that we have nowadays, I don't mean editing wise and cutting and splicing, but make it sound good. Just have a good sound. Don't have the dryer going on in the background and your dog's barking. It sounds silly, but literally half the tapes, there's something going on in the background. Just make it sound good, and you're going to get invited. I mean, it's that simple, but it's shocking how many people don't take it to that level of care, of detail in the tape round.
Ask people that might have better chops at it than you. Frankie, did you have to record for yours?
I actually did, and I was fortunate enough that I was already serving in one of the division military bands, which is a different level. I guess it's not you have great players in those bands just as well, but it was an active duty band in Fort Hood, Texas. And I was fortunate enough to use our in-house audio engineer. I reserved some space in a local chapel, and I was able to pretty much put some tracks down over a course of a couple of days. I put the whole CD together, and I was still not happy with it. And I think that's what the whole recording and re-recording yourselves a bunch of times goes such a long way. Not only do you improve yourself, but for me, it was, I wanted to have a take or a bunch of takes where I was completely proud of it, not just for an audition thing, but I could give it to anybody else. I'm like, hey, what do you think of this? I'm proud of this work that I did. It's good enough to put it in the radio. It's good enough to put it anywhere or to show anybody, any of your friends. Okay. So that's the type of level that you want to have in your recording. One take is not enough. Do it as many times as it takes for you to be happy with your own playing, for you to be able to show it off to somebody else. In addition to that, we just had an audition ourselves. We hired 3 players yesterday, which is fantastic. We're back to being full again. And one of the things that threw me off, I was in the panel, and it was kind of a turnoff before I even heard anybody play live, was the way that they formatted letters, or they formatted their resume. There's no excuse for having a bad letter or a bad format in your resume nowadays because there's so many templates out in the interwebs, right? So take your time, edit, look at it, have people read your stuff, make sure that presentation before you even get heard is perfect. It's something that you're very proud to show off, and you're happy with the way that it looks, the way that it reads, and the way that you're able to present yourself just in writing. And then once you get your recording done and you're happy with that, send that in as well.
That's some great advice. And I saw Ryan kind of smile a little bit because I imagine from your perspective as an assistant director, you probably get to see a lot of that. Any thoughts you want to add?
Well, I have a lot of different perspectives I'd like to share on this. First, Frankie's absolutely right about the high self-standard is where to start with everything that you do, from the way that you appear, from the way that you communicate, all the way through to where the way that you play. And everything reflects your standard, just general standard of living. And I think that's important to remember, that you're always conveying that, you're always advertising that through spoken word or through sound. For me, I joined the Marine Band 10 years ago. I won the arranger audition, and there hadn't been an arranger audition in like 30 years before this vacancy came. So my experience was very different than my colleagues on the panel here. It's like a 6-month audition. But the reason I was smiling is because all of the meticulousness that was being described by my colleagues here is so critical in writing music, arranging music, all the way down to the copy work. A lot of times people will focus on the creativity behind the chart or the composition of the arrangement and lose the details and the weeds of collisions or part extraction or shared parts. Just that minutia that may seem not as important is critical to making music sound well. So I was enjoying that. After I won the arranger audition, I served for 4 years there and became an assistant director. And one of my duties now is to oversee all of the auditions for the Marine Band. I'm on every audition panel. Where we depart a little bit from the Army is that we don't have any recorded rounds on this. And it's kind of, I'm a hopeless romantic when it comes to these sorts of things, but the Marine Band is America's band, right? And our audition process dates all the way back to our inception. So if you are able to enlist by the time you are asked to come to duty, you will be guaranteed 5 minutes in front of the preliminary panel. So we have long preliminary days. We have people that sign up in advance and they come for the call, they get assigned a general time, they come to play. But every audition day from 08 to 1200, anybody can walk in those doors and just choose to take an audition at that time. And they're guaranteed 5 minutes in front of the panel. We won't dismiss you after the first excerpt or the first solo or anything like that. You'll get 5 minutes to say your piece. So we get a lot of turnout for those. And also, you never know what you're going to find. Plus, that whole America's band aspect of it is really important to us. We date back to 1798. We're the oldest continuously active musical organization in the country. And the fact that it still remains open to any citizen here, I find that's really meaningful and important. So we don't have any pre-recorded rounds from there. You do send resume materials and things like that, but none of our panel, and forgive me if I'm moving into another question area here, but nobody sees any of that. We do everything behind a curtain from start to finish through the preliminary rounds. If you are advanced, then you'll have an interview with somebody who's also not on the committee, just to see if there are any potential concerns or anything like that before we continue through the final rounds. And only in the final round, if there's no connection with the panel, will the screen come down and we'll continue the audition. So we can talk about that a little more in detail if you wish later. But it's all live and all are welcome.
Wow, these are some great pieces of information, and I really appreciate all of your insightfulness. And Ryan, I have to go figure out how to spell meticulousness and collusion, because those are some great words. No, I'm actually just fascinated by hearing everybody's perception of this and perspective, because we're going to get into that a little bit more as Steve's going to ask you about the path and certain things that you thought about as you were taking these auditions. So I'll turn it over to Steve.
One of our students, many of them ask the question, how does, and you know, a lot of people come to a conservatory and they see themselves in a professional orchestra. You know, that's many people's entry-level dream. And then this thing, military band, all of a sudden becomes an option to certain people. And they want to know, inherently, what did you all find as different, or are they exactly the same in the preparation, minus the excerpts being different, and you might have Lincoln Sherpozy on an excerpt versus Brahms 3 or whatever it is, I get it. But what besides repertoire might be different from these band auditions, these professional band auditions versus the professional orchestra auditions our students are interested? Kevin, we'll lead with you.
Yeah, I'm probably the worst to lead with because I was beyond lucky. The Pershing Zone was my first real audition, so I never took a ton of orchestral auditions. But I think I can say I don't personally think there is much difference because it's an audition, whether it's an orchestra, a band, a local community, like whatever it is. If you're preparing properly and you're like you said earlier, if you're preparing at your best and the highest level and that attention to detail and all of those things, it doesn't matter who you're going to play for and what the job you're trying to get is. If you're going out there and preparing and giving it your all, I don't see the difference. Yes, some of the excerpts are different. Most of them are not. At least our audition, Outdoor Overture, Some of the Heroes, Petrushka, Pines, like that's our list. It's an orchestral audition. We throw in a march to be like, oh no, this is an orchestral audition and this is a band. We should probably throw in a march. So, you know, the difference is not that big in my opinion. It's and neither is the preparation, or nor should the preparation be. It's an audition. You're representing you at your highest level. And, you know, me personally, whenever I play anything, I'm trying to play my absolute best that I ever can, whether it's at the Basilica on live TV or for like a friend's birthday party down the road that has us playing in their driveway. You know, I try not to play any differently for that. So that's my perspective on the difference between the two types. I don't think there is much. Maybe some of my other colleagues have some other opinions on that, but.
Can you all, I mean, I know this varies in orchestras too. You start behind the screen. Sometimes they put you playing in a section or in a trio or in chamber music aspect and witness how you get along with other people and interface with each other. Is it going to be a good fit? The sounds match and, you know, all these things. Did you all, was that part of the process for you all or not? And is that different than orchestral auditions too, or no?
I'll pass it on to them, but we definitely do end with a section round every audition. It's usually a march. That's where we throw in an extra march and a hymn, because I'm dealing with ceremonial band auditions. So our primary job are funerals in Arlington National Cemetery with a 15-piece band and playing taps. So, you know, we always want to hear that. But at the end, we have trumpet section come and we want to make sure you can blend. And, you know, yes, that has, at the end of the day, been the deciding factor when we can't decide between two people. When one blended immediately and the other wasn't even close, not that they're less of a player, but that's what we do. And that was the deciding factor. But I'll let the other members take over. But we do definitely do section playing.
For us, it's very similar to that. There's it's similar and different at the same time. Similar in the case that we do end our rounds with section playing. For example, yesterday, the third place winner, to be honest, he was having a really good audition, and he kind of plateaued through the rounds. And then the section playing came around. That was the thing that made him showcase the most. Like, he blended better than the other top two guys, and that actually worked out really well for him. But for us, being such a visual-led type of group, we do a lot of various ceremonies, and we have to do a lot of standing around, and we do a lot of marching as well. So we actually have a small segment of our audition where it has a small standing test, and we also have a marching test, and we give the not contestants, but the candidates, sorry. We give the candidates a video ahead of time where they have to learn a really small set of drill, 8 counts forwards, 8 counts mark time, 8 counts turn around, do it all over again. And we give them a piece of music. They have to prepare that before they get to the live round. Once they get invited, they have to prepare that for the live round, which is very different from any of the other bands. But our group especially has a lot of visual aspect. We got to make sure that is well taken care of, and is considered very highly during the audition in terms of percentage as well. You got to have the look, you got to have the strength, and you also got to have at least some kind of knowledge of marching. Once you get into the unit, though, we will teach you our style, and from there on, you adapt to what we do. I personally marched in high school, marched in college, and I did some DCI, and I was in a Broadway show which was all marching basically and dancing, the show called Blast. And when I came into my unit of the Old Guard Fife and Drum Corps, I had to relearn marching almost from scratch. And that was something I was not expecting. I thought it was all going to be about the playing, and it is. The playing definitely has the most. It's in the forefront of the audition. However, I was expected to know a little bit of that as well. And I think one of the things that helped me through that was I did my research. I went out and I listened to recordings of the Fife and Drum Corps. I watched videos, and I kind of understood what the style was, not just marching, but playing, articulation, the way they phrase things. So when I got to the live round, I already had a slight idea of what they were looking for. I was also not scared, just like Kevin said before, of reaching out and talking to some folks in the Fife and Drum Corps before I even made it to the live audition, just to get some ideas, to ask questions, random things that I knew I wasn't going to have the time. Once I got to the audition, I wanted to be just focused into my playing. I wanted to ask those things beforehand just so I have a better idea and understanding of how I should approach my audition process. So that's something that was very different from any orchestral or any other military band audition that I've taken.
Anyone else? Laura?
I would just say one of the main things that I can't speak obviously for each military band, but at least in the Navy band, we do have sight reading on our auditions, and sometimes that's not something that's done on an orchestral audition. And so that's just probably the main difference, I think, between my experience taking military band auditions and then orchestral auditions.
Awesome.
Yeah, and just a few brief things to add. I think that's true, and we do have sight reading in elements of our audition. We usually, by the final rounds, are involving some other players. It may be a quintet or a string quartet or a brass quintet. Sometimes it's just a duet where the principal player of the section will be playing in duets, or sometimes at octaves with the other player to assess some of the blends that my colleagues on the panel are talking about. And then the sight reading element would be introduced at that point as well, sometimes with ensemble, sometimes just solo. And as Frankie was saying, everything weighs, you never know what's going to be the thing that pushes you above, your colleagues. He told a story from his recent audition. You never know what the it is going to be. So doing your best on every aspect of it, of course, is essential for moving forward. And then one other item I wanted to just bring up with differences between orchestral and military band auditions. Every audition is different. Every group is different. And we can talk about the differences between all of our ensembles, which then impact how we run our auditions, because we're trying to seek people for these specific places. But one thing Kevin mentioned was having a march on the audition. And yeah, there will be March excerpts on all of these auditions, and March excerpts that may not appear on orchestral auditions, but I cannot overemphasize how critical those are. How you've got to do the research that everyone's spoken about so far in this panel to see what is the performance practice of bands in general, but also the specific performance practice on that particular march, that particular composer, and with that particular ensemble. If you go to the default that marches are easy, or marches they're just standard, or they're ubiquitous, everybody knows how to play them, they're kind of throwaways on concerts or on my practicing or on any of those things, I promise you, you will fail. But if you take it seriously and you really dig in to find where the music is in those notes, you will set yourself apart from your peers faster than potentially anything else on that audition.
Good advice.
This is to our conservatory students and this sight reading notion. So I get to listen, and so does Dr. Parisi, to about, 160 auditions every year at the start of the semester. Mm-hmm. And those are 2 or 3 very long days for us. And then we rank order them. They're all blind. We rank order them 1 to whatever of the kazoo section. So we have first place finisher kazoo and all the way down. And then we place them in their ensembles. And that's all interesting. But then I take that information and I give part assignments for the first concert go round. And then what I hear on the ground doesn't match the audition results. And what I never talk about, maybe I should, is I'm really paying attention and go and listen to the recording on that first performance and see, yeah, that person wasn't ready for the principal part in the limelight with the light shining on them, or that person really hit it out of the park. And so then usually, the greatest part assignment mistakes happen on concert 1 because they had all summer to prepare and everything is more meticulous. And it's not uncommon for me in that first rehearsal or whatever to say, or second rehearsal, your auditions were phenomenal. Let's make sure our results in real time match the level of the auditions, which they don't initially because they haven't had 3 months to prepare. And I'm guessing, tell me if this is true or not, I'm guessing the sight reading component of this is to analyze and evaluate speed, where people start, and how much time they need to prepare. When you're going through concerts, one after another, after another, after another, the sight reading information gives a starting point that some people might just be higher from the moment they see a piece of music to where they can attain quicker in a truncated scenario. Would we say that's accurate? Would anyone disagree with what I'm saying with that? So what I'm going to bring to our conservatory students, I'm gonna ask you a question. Are you practicing sight reading every single day? And not just for military band auditions, but just in general, because that fluency, Frankie grew up speaking Spanish, and you hear how fluent he is with English now, and that has familiarity and repetition and consistency has enabled Frankie to, sound beautiful when he speaks now. I love the accent. Kevin.
Also with us sight reading with ceremonial band, we go do the funerals and that's out of, we have a flip folder and a book and that's that. But the other half or more of what we do are retirement ceremonies, change of command ceremonies, large ceremonies where we do have music on a flip folder, but if it's a 9 o'clock job, we're sitting down at 8 o'clock, reading the music once and going and doing the job. Like, that's it. So sight reading is very high on our audition list because it's most of what we do. And we need to know that you get a piece of music, it's a really hard march that was requested. We go, we play the job, and the president's sitting there, that you're not going to, step all over yourself. So yeah, sight reading is very high for us. That's a huge, you could have the best audition and nail everything. And if you can't sight read, we're probably not going to be able to offer you.
I think our students my teacher used to say a pound of music a week, but I think they miss opportunities because that's how I met my wife. We played duets all the time. Open up the Amsden book, which for now my age, I can't even read that music, but we'd open it up and just read it, and then hey, you want to go on a date? Cool. 30 years later, it worked. So Yeah, UMKC students. Come on. Not just about sight reading.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Sorry. Frankie.
Absolutely. For us, our music book is all memorized. Everything that we do in our unit is basically memorized, except for the modern trumpet stuff or the historical trumpet, and the historical fifes and flutes. They get to read sheet music. So in our edition, we do have sight reading as well, and it's trying to tell us more about how you approach artistically a piece of music in a very short amount of time. So attention to detail is key when it comes to this stuff when you're trying to sight read something new. That being said, all of us sight read all the time. We are constantly, when we are not doing any kind of tasking, any kind of ceremonial job, or we don't have a show, you will hear people playing music in the halls all the time, playing duets, playing quartets, excerpts. And I feel like that's something that whether you're already have the job or not, it's something as a professional musician, you should always just keep going on because it improves your playing regardless. For me, I prepare auditions whether I'm going to take them or not. Just so I can keep those chops up, just so I can make sure that I'm always learning new material or polishing old material that I've worked on before as well. And I think that's something that we always kind of leave on the side when we're preparing audition. We want to work on the excerpts and make those perfect. However, working on sight reading on a daily basis not only make those excerpts better over time, but you also expand your knowledge. You also you keep putting drops into that bucket until it's closer to full than usually would be. So we as a group, we have a fife group, we have a drum group and a bugle group. The bugles and fifes, all of us, and even the drummers, are constantly searching for new music, constantly arranging, constantly playing duets and doing anything to just keep our minds engaged in new music, keeping our abilities up. Because if not, if you get stagnant in any way, whether it's sight reading or just playing your show, the job itself can just become that. It could become a job. I love my job because we get to challenge each other. I have friends that are just fantastic players in our work, and those are the guys that I want to sit down next to and play duets with. I know they're going to challenge my playing. I know that I'm going to learn something every time I sit down with them. And sight reading for me was something that I dreaded before, like in college, high school days. And now it's fun. It's a challenge. It's a fun thing to do. And I know that it's going to improve my playing overall every day.
Joe, you want to go to the next question?
Well, actually, that sets it up really well. So here's what I'm going to do. And if I remember this correctly, I'm going from newest in service to longest. So am I right? Laura, Kevin, Frankie, Ryan. Is that correct? Laura, how many years?
1.
Kevin?
13.
Oh, 7. So Kevin's up.
All right. And Ryan?
I'm on 10.
Okay, so
I'm the old guy.
Wow. All right. So Laura, Frankie, Ryan, Kevin. Okay. So my question is, and I'm a kid that sees you in uniform. I'm on an elevator with you, and we're going up just a few floors, and it's like a 30-second conversation. And I want to know, what's the best piece of advice you'd give me for someone that's about to embark on a military career? So like, press the ding, here we go. Beep, beep. All right, Laura.
Don't give up. The boot camp portion of what you go through is only temporary, and it's extremely manageable.
Great. Who is next? Frankie.
I was next. I completely agree with that. Most of the candidates that get hired in our unit have auditioned at least once already. Actually, the 3 candidates that auditioned yesterday have all auditioned. 2 of them had auditioned twice, and one of them it was their second time auditioning. Just prepare physically and mentally for basic training for sure.
Good. Ryan.
Sure, I'm in an elevator with someone who's won an audition already, right? Is this question for what am I in for?
I'm about to start. What do I need to know?
Excellent. Be flexible. Be flexible. Be open-minded, and be ready for the unexpected. We don't have the recruit training requirement with the President's Own. The other Marine bands in the fleet do, because we don't have secondary combat duty. We can't be transferred. We're only assigned to the President of the United States and the Commandant of the Marine Corps. But there's as with the other services as well, a very high musical standard that you're tasked to maintain. And things will come in last minute, things will be unexpected, and there'll be other things that you can plan and prepare for months at a time. But your life will be filled with variety, experiences, front row seat to history that you may not have imagined seeing, from Arlington to the White House and beyond.
I could just hear "God Bless America" playing while you said that. That was good.
It was on Muzak, right?
I mean, it was like love. It was well done. Kevin.
I would say to someone that maybe just won the job, and we literally had a guy come in last night from basic training. I would say just be a nice human being and a good colleague to work with, because we basically lived together for 20 to 30 years. There's been maybe 2 people that have gotten out before 20. Be someone that you want to work with, and remember that, I know it's the military motto, whatever, but it's not about you. It's about the whole thing. So maybe you don't want to do this, but it's affecting everyone else in the unit. And, if everyone works together, you're going to have an amazing career. You're going to get along with everybody, and it's going to be awesome. And it is awesome. It's the best job in the world. I'm so lucky. On that more and more, but if you're just a good person to work with, it just makes life so much easier. You want to come in and work with nice people, and I work with my best friends. We look back at our wedding and everything, and it's the Army band, which is a testament to itself that, of all the people that I've known, my closest friends, my dearest people that I reach out to are my colleagues that I see every day, and we don't want to kill each other. So,
Steve, you have a follow-up.
Me?
Yeah, you look like you're about to say something.
I was just about to go in. So this is all kind of related. I know one of the things that's fearful, makes fear come across some of our students when they think about the military process or potentiality, is just the physicality of what they have to go through. And I know, Ryan, the Marines don't have to do that as much, or the President's Own. I know the base bands do, but the President's Own doesn't have to. But Laura, you were a runner in like as a hobby, just kind of for fun, right? And so besides just your running, whatever, did you feel like that by itself prepared you well enough for boot camp?
Yes, honestly, for a Navy boot camp, I'd say that if you are in the position where you have a little bit of time, you're not shipping out to boot camp a week after you win the job, which typically doesn't seem to be the case. If you have a little bit of time to work up to running at least 2 miles, that would be helpful. If you can get some sit-ups and push-ups, do those every morning, it'll help you. But just know that there were some people that I went to boot camp with, and this is not to embarrass anybody at all, who didn't do that, and they were fine. And so it's kind of, I don't recommend that, but it's something that it is doable throughout the course of your training. We call it recruit training command. So throughout your course there, you do work out every day, and it's just so that you can learn to do those certain exercises properly, and you can feel comfortable to pass your physical fitness test that you have to do.
What are some baseline numbers that has to get to, so people can and I know this is general and you might not be able to remember them all, but can you throw anything out, something for our students to be aware of?
Okay, so we have to run 1.5 miles. So I know Army is different, but the Navy, we have to run 1.5 miles. It's all based on your age and gender right now. And so that information is public. I honestly can't remember the time that I have to have mine under. And I just look it up when when I need to think about it and get prepared for that. But all that information is public. And so you can Google that, say I'm 28 years old. So, and 28-year-old female running 1.5 miles. I think it has to be like 14 minutes or something like that, under that, or something along those lines. I can't remember. But all of that information is public, like this many push-ups, this many sit-ups, things like that. And I know the Army test is slightly different, and that your experiences at boot camp were probably different. But I guess my one final thing is that just think about how hundreds of thousands of people are in the military or have been in, and they've all made it through the training portions of it. There's really no reason why someone who's an accomplished musician and a dedicated student can't take those like dedication skills and put it towards your military training, and like you would be totally fine. That's what I would say to anybody who's going in.
Yeah. Kevin, briefly.
So I'm sure Frankie might want to jump in on a little bit of this too, but we've had the Army fitness test, the APFT, for years. It's push-ups, sit-ups, and run, and that's been our test. It's being changed right now to the Army combat fitness, which is still push-ups, kettlebell runs, dead arm hangs, deadlifts. Like it's this. It went from like, oh yeah, I don't have to, if you stay in basic shape, like I can show up and I can pass my PT test, where if you do that, you're going to be looking at some serious issues. So not to scare anyone, but, just so they know, just like she said, you can look up all the requirements and everything online. The Army did just ramp it up a little bit.
Yeah, I completely agree. And the thing about the new test is that it's more about total body instead of just upper body, run, and core. So if you're at least taking care of yourself, having good nutrition, and you have some kind of habit of physical training every day, I started doing the beach body stuff, which is kind of ironic, but it covers everything, and there's a lot of different programs. Right before I joined basic training, I did nothing. I think I started running maybe 2 or 3 weeks before actual basic training. Just like Laura, I don't recommend it, just because when I got to basic training, it was a shock to my body. And you start every day with the workout, and then from there on out, you're running everywhere you go. If you need to go from one spot to the other, the drill sergeants will run you there. That being said, your body will get accustomed to it. It's not as hard as you can picture it. For me, the hardest part was the mental part of it. Drill sergeants and people who are in charge of you at that time, are part of their job is to kind of break you down and build you right back up. And I had a hard time with being a band kid, that we used to run back to our sets, and there's a certain work ethic that band kids have in general, and not just band kids, but orchestra kids and everybody, choir kids. We just had this work ethic. And what was hard for me is seeing other people who don't have that work ethic not work as hard as I was working. I didn't want to be the last one. I knew that as an older person, I joined when I was 35. I wasn't going to be the first one, but I definitely didn't want to be the last one. So for me to watch somebody else just kind of like drag their butts around and just, that drove me nuts, to be honest. But so I think for me, mentally, it was much more challenging than physically. The physical part, your body just gets used to it. You start seeing that you're gaining strength and you're doing things you weren't able to do before. And, some stuff you have to kind of pull yourself back and say, this is kind of fun. It's fun to climb a wall. I've never done that before. And you have to do that. And it's fun to shoot a gun for, however many months you're there. That's all. That if you get yourself mentally prepared that this is going to be a positive experience and you're going to get through it, and just like Laura said, it is temporary, and then you get to be in your job. It's actually a really good thing. Once you get done with basic training or boot camp, your body is in a whole different place, and hopefully you can keep those habits going, and it's never going to be an issue again.
Joe?
Kevin, are you keeping those habits going as a new dad? Just kidding. What, Kevin?
Absolutely.
Kevin just had a new baby how many days ago?
Is it bad that my answer is I don't know?
That makes sense.
Hours.
five. We're at 5 or 6 days.
We congratulate you. So we kind of answered a couple of questions that kids had about that. So I'm going to ask this of all of you, but I'll start with Ryan and then maybe go to Kevin. But your typical day, now typical, not COVID-19, but before we knew what we know now, which is sitting at Zoom and looking at people and going, hi. What is a typical day for you look like in your particular position? So Ryan, I mean, assistant director, you also did chief arranging, a lot of arranging for the groups at that time. So maybe it varied over the time, but what does it look like for the Marine Band?
Yeah, I'm not so sure I'm the best to go first, but I will lay it out there because there is no typical day. I get this question a lot. And one thing about our organization is that everybody does everything. So we have a core of 150 musicians that do the ceremonies, they do the concerts, they're in the orchestra, they're in the band. You could be in a quintet, you could be in harp and flute, you could be at the State Department, you could be at the White House. And each week to week, it's different from what you're doing. So there's a lot of variety and a lot of opportunity for versatility in your job. For my job as assistant director, we'll have concerts spread out through the course of the year. There are 3 conductors with the Marine Band. I'm in the middle. I'm number 2, and we'll divide the concerts evenly 3 ways. And we have programming capabilities all of our own. There are certain ceremonies throughout the course of the year that a conductor may be involved in. Typically, the conducting on ceremonies at Arlington or around the DC area will be done by our drum major. But if there are vocalists or if they're higher profile events, there are international dignitaries there. The conductors will take on those ceremonies. They could come at a moment's notice. And then I think one of the most, let's say, unpredictable aspects of the job I found serving for both President Obama and President Trump now is the White House obligations. There will be a wide variety of things that happen over there and a lot of things to plan for, some of which you can do so in advance, some that happen in real time, and many when you're there change hour to hour, minute to minute, depending on what the event is. So you may have your concept of what your day is going to be like, but typically by 9 o'clock on that day, it's changed. There have been other things that have happened with any of the groups that are going out that need to be tweaked. And by that, I mean the funeral band, the ceremonial bands, brass quintet jobs, folks at the White House, things at the State Department, and planning for the future, to say nothing of concertizing, rehearsals, chamber music concerts, and so forth. So I wish I could give you a better answer, but the days go by fast and they're unpredictable.
I mean, people that don't know what you all get to do don't really have an image of what it's like. That, okay, you got a phone call and we have an event, you need to go, or there's a funeral. Kevin posted a beautiful rendition of Taps on Veterans Day, which seems like eons ago. And so Kevin, your day, similar, some other things that arise all of a sudden, or?
Yeah, so kind of what Ryan said is the same. We never really know what our day is, and it's our joke / it's reality. We get our final schedule for the day maybe a day or 2 ahead of time. There's like a heads up, and then even at that point, it probably changes. But a general day for a member of the ceremonial band is doing several full honor funerals, which is where we have the full band marching through the cemetery, playing marches and the firing party and taps, or we call them simple honor funerals, where a bugler is going out and doing it by themselves. That's a calm, normal, average day where we have 4 to 10 of those a day. Now, that's one end. We could be playing with the brass quintet. As a member of the Herald Trumpets, we do any state arrivals or any ambassadors that come to the White House. You could be at work 4 or 5 hours, and then the rest of the day you're getting your practicing in, you're keeping up your maintenance, you're dealing with life stuff, there's trainings we have to do, all the way to the other end where right before all this started happening, this current administration was really starting to use the Herald Trumpets, and not always at a planned out distance. I think, Brian, you're probably involved in that Australia Rose Garden. Yeah, like all of a sudden it's like, hey, in 2 days we're going to have every band standing on top of the Oval Office. We're doing this big ceremony. It was one of the coolest ceremonies I've ever gotten to do. It was spectacular. But we had 3 days of 04 to getting home near midnight. You're sitting in an auditorium in the White House because that's your day that day. what our operations people do, they're amazing human beings. I don't know how they do it. I'm so glad that they do it so well. But just as he mentioned, there are changes, probably changes every hour that we just don't even get word of that they deal with and put out. And that's why our unit runs so well. But it's a Army speak. We call it a high up tempo. Everything's just moving super fast and changing all the time. But our job within everyone throughout the unit is to get it done and make it look easy and not let anyone else know what we had to do to make it happen. So long answer, but
No, that's good.
we could do a couple funerals. I could be, playing for the Pope. It just depends on what day of the week it is.
Okay, so Frankie, yours is a little different.
Yeah, ours, we usually have some kind of, but really it is different every day. It really is. Even as predictable as the job can be, it still changes every single day. Our schedule is usually posted a week or two ahead if we have the orders to do a job. So we have a little bit of predictability, but not all the time. So for a regular day with a ceremony, for example, if the ceremony is at 11, our call time is usually about 2 hours before that. It gives us enough time to warm up, practice whatever we need to practice. And then if we need a rehearsal, which is usually rare for us, a specific ceremony, we'll do that during that 2 hour block. And we have a very short inspection to make sure that everybody's uniforms looks good for the ceremony. We'll go out, do the job, and then come right back to the building. If there's nothing else going on during the day, then just like Kevin was saying, people just take care of shop maintenance. You're working on your horn, or you may have a secondary duty that you have to do. For us, we have to do, for example, I'm in charge of Casualty Assistance Center. So funerals that Pershing's own, Kevin's group, doesn't cover, we cover. And I'm usually in charge of making sure that everybody has their schedule, to know where they're going, and they're actually getting there safely. So other people have different shops. For example, supply. Some people are in charge of making sure that everybody has whatever instrument they need or anything that they need to do their job at a high level. When it comes to having the right instrument, having oil and cleaning supplies, anything like that. So you should take care of that at the end, after a ceremony or whatnot. And then we also have days that we constantly have an influx of soldiers. Right now we have a lot of people retiring, so we're getting a lot of people in, new people in that we have to train. So we will have in the afternoon after lunch, we'll have a training block of about an hour where we're training new soldiers how to adapt to our style, or it might be a music rehearsal of some sort. We learn shows all the time. We learn new shows. And so we have to memorize it. And we either get together as a section or as a full corps to learn those things. And but rehearsals are usually rare. And if there is going to be rehearsals, usually about an hour, and then the rest is on your own. You got to prepare before you come to rehearsal. Rehearsals not to learn your part, it's rehearsals to learn everybody else's part. And I'm sure Mr. Davis can attest to that. I've heard that once or twice back in the day. But it actually applies to real life and real military jobs. You've got to have your stuff ready before you come in. So our rehearsals are efficient, and we can get out of there as soon as possible because there's just so much stuff to do. Basically, as long as you're flexible and you can understand that is part of your job, it doesn't get in the way. I think it actually makes it fun. You never know what you're going to have that day, or you never know where you're going to end up. Just like Kevin says, you can be playing for the Pope one minute, and the next day you're just doing funeral honors somewhere.
So a really good point you brought up, and then I'm gonna let Professor Davis jump in unless Laura you have something. But you said, your job's not to know your part; it's know your part so that you fit in with everybody else's, which we've all said to our students. And we have a lot of freshmen that probably aren't going to get to experience the huge, large ensemble experience right now because of COVID-19. Mm-hmm. However, as a high school student, we were all programmed to get a chart. And we all sight read it in the room. And here at the conservatory, we don't operate that way. We give them the music beforehand with the expectation that they come prepared as the best possible musician they can possibly be, because I believe we set them up for the professional world. Nobody's showing up sight reading Petrushka. I mean, if they are, good for them. I don't want to be in that. So we're just trying to set our students up for that success. And to hear you say that I really do appreciate that, and it resonates with what we believe here. So to the freshmen that are going to opt in for live work, realize that you'll get the music, and we'll try to make sure you get it ready.
Laura, you're in more of a concert band scenario, right?
Yes, well, I'm in the concert and ceremonial band. And so in our particular command, the people who are wind players and brass players and percussionists, usually there's enough of us to make 2 groups. And so one week, half of us are playing ceremonies, and the other half is what we call stage band. And then we flip-flop. So like the next week, if I was playing ceremonies on week A, then on week B, I'm playing on stage. And so that's really kind of a nice, it's a nice balance to be able to do both. And that's just something that our particular command does it that way.
Okay. This next question I'm going to ask, and it's many of our students are interested in this, and I know there's probably ways that we can't answer this, but I'm just going to ask it anyway, and we'll be as forthright as we're allowed. So I'm a student, and this is 6 years ago, and I'm a conservative Republican, and I'm getting ready to audition for the military band, and a person named Obama is president. Or I'm a liberal Democrat, and it's right now, and I'm getting ready to audition, and Donald Trump is president. I happen to be a pacifist. I'm not a pacifist. I love guns. I'm against guns. How do you all reconcile your individuality with the whole and the parameters that are placed upon you towards that end? Who wants to go first?
I can jump in there. And I do have some saved thoughts on that previous subject. Maybe I can come back to a little bit later. But on this subject, and I don't want to speak for my colleagues, but I have a feeling I am, that we have a job to do. There is a mission, there is something to do. And with being artists, there are things that inspire us to play. And I think that's what the nature of your question is. We are all servants, all 4 of us. We are servants to our nation, and our nation has asked us to do these jobs in this capacity to support a variety of commanders and chiefs and a variety of situations and a variety of ceremonies. And that, regardless of how you're wired individually, will always, 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 always resonate with you, certainly enough to be able to complete the mission that's ahead of you. Our organization, as I said, has been around since 1798, so we have served every president since John Adams, and we've been performing at the White House since before it was built. We were on the lawn as they were building it. So there's a lot of history and tradition that our organization has been a part of, from on the train with Lincoln to Gettysburg, to President Kennedy's funerals, all the way up to the 4th of July celebration on the South Lawn of the White House just this past July. And one thing is for certain, is that our unit will always, always come together to be able to put the best product forward, support the mission to the best of our ability, and be able to represent all men and women of this nation in these very high-profile events. So the things that you're talking about, Professor Davis, actually do not come to mind in the moment, because you're so focused on where you are, what you're supposed to be doing, and the larger meaning of it.
Absolutely.
Kevin?
Yeah, I think that was perfectly said. I was just going to say the overall is we all enlisted in the Army, and it's a time where it was all voluntary. You know, we're not, none of us were drafted in, but when you join the military, the commander-in-chief is your boss, and in your oath of enlistment, it says, "I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me." That is your job. It doesn't matter if you agree with them or not. I've been in through Bush, Obama, Trump, and whatever's next. And most likely, whatever my beliefs are, they might have differed slightly from one of those, because, you know, we've had a couple different views of opinion up there, but it doesn't matter. That's our commander-in-chief. That's our boss. We do what we're supposed to do, and you go home. If you feel the need to have political conversations, save it for your spouse or your family at home. It's not for the workplace. It's not for your job. It's our job is to serve our country and our leaders, and that's your job. You know, you have an opinion, and everyone's allowed their opinion, and they're valid opinions. But when it comes to, you know, I'm not even going to use an example for fear of saying the wrong thing, but you just come down and you do what you're supposed to do, and you do it because the right reasons, because that's what we were hired to do, and that's the oath that we took to our country. I know we forget often within our military music bubble that we're in the military. Like that's what we swore for our country. Yes, I play the trumpet, and I'm not fighting overseas, but we're in the same military. It's the same army, and we have the same values and commitments to our country. So,
Or you or Frankie want to add anything to that, or was it pretty much covered?
I think it was covered.
Yeah, I think it was covered too. I really believe that for me personally, I just love playing music, and any chance I get to play it for whoever I get to play it, it's great with me. And yeah, we were here to serve. I think Ryan and Kevin both did a great job explaining that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was inspired. Thank you. And I really do mean that. Thank you for all. I mean, it makes me proud. I do want to change a little bit because I think it's important to know this because you've alluded to it. Could you all give me maybe your most, and I'm sorry to seem, but what your most memorable experience in this role? Musical. Most memorable musical experience in this role?
I have one that comes to mind immediately while the others are thinking. Mine's within the band. I'm a blank of how long ago it was. It could have been a year. It could have been 3. When George Bush Sr. passed away. Anybody remember how many years? Because life's a big blur to me.
It's just a year and a half. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
So our job with the ceremonial band was to be at the base of the Capitol steps as they brought his casket and body up and was being raised up to be laid in state in the Capitol with George Bush Jr. standing there with his family receiving his, I literally get chills just saying it out loud. It was the most amazing thing in the world. And we were all talking. It didn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat or liked Bush or hated Bush. That moment of history, we were part of history. Like a lot of what we do is a part of history. And to be standing there and realizing what was happening, how many father and son presidents, and one's waiting to have his, deceased father brought up to him to be laid in state. And it was the most powerful, amazing thing I've ever had the chance to do. And that it was, I'll never forget that moment. I've done some amazing things, but for some reason I came home and that one got me pretty good. That was really special to be a part of.
Thanks for sharing that.
Sure. One of the things that I really enjoy about my job, every year we do what's called Flags In Arlington Cemetery. And the first year that I did this, I just thought it was some kind of tasking. We're just going to have to go do some kind of job that is not music related. And this is not necessarily music related, but it really shows the power of coming together as a group to do something way bigger than you. And what we do, we get up super early in the morning, get up and go to Arlington Cemetery and place flags in every single tombstone. And prior to Memorial Day for that weekend. I think the regiment itself, the Old Guard Regiment, does, I want to say it's over 250,000 flags. It's a lot of flags. Our unit itself, like you just pack on this giant rucksacks full of flags and you just do that for however many hours. And it's very tiring, but when you're done with it and you see how many people have actually come before you that you're able to honor during that, it is just mind-blowing and extremely powerful. And it's something that I'll never forget. The first time that I just I just sat there after the long day's work, and you just look around at how many people have come before you that have paid the ultimate price to serve our country. It is something that I'll never forget. And it has nothing to do with music, but I'm so thankful that I have been put in a place and a job that allows me to be part of something so much bigger than I am. And I think that's one of the first times that I felt as a soldier that I was doing something that was really part of history and tradition. And that's something I actually now, I'm my 7th year in the Army, I guess I'm in my 5th year in the Old Guard, something I look forward to every single year to do. And it has nothing to do with music, but it's just something that we get to do, kind of our own little thing, as being part of the Old Guard.
Wow.
Laura, anything? Have you had any great moments in the year?
Oh yes, I've really enjoyed my 1 year in so far, and I'm very thankful for this job. Um, Something that a very memorable moment for me was one of my first funerals that I played at Arlington Cemetery, and it was right as the fall, like the leaves started to change. And Arlington Cemetery is a very beautiful place. If you ever have a chance to go and visit, it is very, very beautiful. And I just remember playing with the band. We were marching the remains of a fallen soldier to their final burial place. And we went around this, I don't know the exact location, but we went around this curve so I could see what was coming behind, because the caisson, which is the horses and the horse and buggy carrying the coffin, was behind us, so I could sort of see out of my peripheral vision like the horse and buggy coming. And it kind of got me, as we were marching down this hill, I could see them coming, and I could just feel chills over, because it was just such a beautiful day, first of all, with like these beautiful fall colors and everything, and then just to see this like so peaceful, like just honoring this particular sailor that lost his life. So that was just something that I will never forget. That one particular, it's kind of a weird memory, just like that one particular position in Arlington Cemetery as we were walking, but I just remember like seeing that, and then seeing all the cars following behind. And I don't know, I feel very privileged that I get to do this, and very honored that I get to do that.
Brian?
Yes, very well said, Laura. It's bigger than all of us. I feel that I feel I've had a privilege of so many incredible opportunities, musical and otherwise, through my position, from being in the cathedral when Kevin brought President Bush in. Our orchestra was there to receive him and play that ceremony, to being on the roof of the West Wing for the Australian State Dinner, or creating sensitive moments in the White House for the first family or for visiting dignitaries. On tour, we get to see so many great parts of this nation, and everybody comes in different, and everybody leaves red, white, and blue on the way out, that they have way more be it a beautiful concert hall like yours there in Kansas City, which was phenomenal, or a high school gym. It's so communal, and it is so wonderful that it's very difficult for me to choose a moment. However, I think that if I were to choose one moment, it would be President Obama's second inaugural. I was the staff arranger there, and I had the opportunity to write a few pieces of music for that event. One was the arrangement of the Star Spangled Banner for Beyonce, and I got to work with her on that. But the other moment was for Kelly Clarkson. She was selected to sing My Country 'Tis of Thee at that inauguration, and if your students want to Google it, you can witness that moment with me. And my command, I was a staff arranger at the time, and I ended up marching in the parade on sousaphone of all things, believe it or not, which is another story after it. But they allowed me on the platform, since I was a big part of the music of that day. They allowed me on the platform, where I've been for the subsequent inaugurations as an assistant director. It was wonderful to meet Miss Clarkson and work with her on this arrangement, and just kind of created from whole cloth. She sang a cappella to me how she wanted it to go, and then I just set it from there. And then I'm on the dais. Kelly Clarkson is up there singing. All the presidents in Congress and Supreme Court justices and everybody else are right there behind me. But I'm sitting in the back of the band, looking out all the way to the Lincoln, where there are 750,000 people all lined up. And she sings these notes that had become so personal to me. And just the way that it felt in that moment, and the way that the audiences responded, the way that Diane Sawyer on ABC News responded, or Joe Biden, God rest his soul, was crying. And it was a really meaningful moment of how the nation can come together with one of our traditional folk songs that has its lineage from England. it was a very special moment that I can't put into words, but that's one that I'll definitely take with me.
Time has gone quickly, and we're already towards the end here, but I want to give everyone, and we didn't probably get to all the questions we mentioned, but just we're at an hour and 5 minutes or so right now, so we probably need to start to wrap this up. But I want to give you all, what have we left out? What's the final words of wisdom to amazing next generation of musicians in the world?
Can I jump in first here? I don't know if I have some, incredibly life-changing advice for you all, but there are a couple of subjects that, especially Frankie brought up, that I think would be of great interest to your students. We talked a little bit about what each of our organizations does and how they're different. We talked a lot about the different sight reading, the unexpected nature, but there is still a lot that is planned and prepared and that you're able to do, and things that are as rewarding as they are from a service aspect, they are rewarding from a very musical aspect. So we have our concert band, and we have a chamber orchestra in our organization that plays concerts throughout the year. We have I would call a curated concert series from January through May, where we do band concerts 2 of those weeks. We do an orchestra concert one of those weeks, and then we have chamber music ensembles that are member driven, that are able to prepare and kind of nourish their musical soul in that way. And in these concerts, we're commissioning new composers, we're creating new music, we're inviting guest conductors and guest composers and guest soloists, and there's a whole aspect to our organization there, championing new music and so forth, that can be very rewarding for the musicians involved. Over the summer, we move into summer concerts, which are still old style concert fare on the Capitol steps, where the band will play and our chamber orchestra will perform in-house in auditoriums. Then we move into tour and into the holiday season. So there's a lot of concertizing and a lot of music making that is shared throughout all of the members of our organization. The second part that Frankie mentioned casually was he talked about what he said were collateral duties, things that he has to do outside of music. And we're very fortunate in the Marine Band that we have a full-time professional support staff that are assigned to the band, that their full-time job and the way that they win their jobs is not dissimilar to an orchestral musician. So we have professional librarians that have, degrees in library sciences, that are 6 of them down there that take care of all of the music. We have a professional that runs our supply shop. We have a whole team of public relations folks that are trained in that industry that then are hired and made band members. They're part of our organization with that billet. They can't be transferred in the same way that our graphic designers. We have a team of recording engineers that are all trained in that as well, a team in our operations staff, and so forth. So our musicians, and then, us in the command, our job is to take a lot of the administrative responsibility off of the musicians as well, so they can dedicate their time to performing the best they can on their instrument at all times. And I think that is very special and something that I wanted to make sure that your conservatory musicians were aware of as well, especially the professional support staff side of it, because there will be people in your programs that will have interests in some of these things, that there are careers for them as well in the military service, especially with the Marine Band. So keep an open mind, and nourishing your musical soul is essential wherever you are, whatever you do, whatever you end up doing, especially now when COVID. I found myself at the piano for 3 hours. I didn't know where it went, and it found out that I hadn't been making music apparently. And so it's important that you do that, especially now.
Thank you, Ryan. Frankie?
Yeah, I have just 2 things on that. I feel like whether you're auditioning or taking an audition or not, you should always maintain your craft. And there's so many resources now with the internet, with Zoom meetings, and a lot of different colleges are offering classes that you can just show up to through Zoom or whatnot. Take advantage of that. Get to know some people, and whether you're going to take an audition now or when you're done with your college track, start preparing now. Why not? Start working on your excerpts now. Make it a habit. Make it a routine where you don't have to go out of your way to prepare an audition. You just it's already in your repertoire. It's already built in, and you just have to polish it a little bit. Don't wait until something gets posted to start working on it. Start working on it now, and you're bound to get something. With that, if you don't get it the first time, most of us don't, you know? Go ahead and keep working on it, and you will eventually, if your mind is right and you have good work ethic and you really want it, you'll get it. The other thing was there's just so many people in the military that are just willing and aching to pass on what they've learned. So please don't be afraid to reach out. I love it when I have former students or colleagues that just ask me questions about our daily life or what I did to get here. I can't wait to talk about it because I'm proud of the work that I put in to do so, and my background, where I came from to get here. I can't wait to share that with people. And I'm honestly speak for everybody in my unit feels the same exact way. They can't wait to share their experiences on what they did to get in the right track to be able to win a job, or how it feels to be in the job, or how it is to manage a family and have a job like this in the any kind of military service. So please don't be afraid to reach out. We can't wait to talk to you about it. It's fun for us, and we want to pass the buck, because a lot of people, such as Professor Davis, Professor Parisi, did that for us at one point as well, and we want to be able to pass it on.
Laura?
Yeah, kind of jumping off of what Frankie was just saying, whether you are planning to audition for a specific spot or you want to go more of the teaching route, teaching collegiately or teaching in public school, no matter what it is that you want to do, I am a big supporter of finding what you want to do and just find a way to make it happen. And so asking for help from your colleagues, from your teachers, like Frankie said, from if I can be of any help or any of us can be of any help, we'd be happy to do that. But don't get discouraged. I can speak from my own experience, and I feel like Professor Davis knows this. I took 13 auditions before I won the job that I have, and 12 times I was told no, but one time I was told yes, and that one yes has just been such a great year already. I really am very thankful that I was advised by my teachers, Professor Davis and Dr. Parisi. They just said, keep going for it, just keep doing it, and it'll happen. And I really, truly believe that if you want something bad enough and you really want, you have certain dreams, just don't give up on them. Even now during COVID, like see if you can find a way to like really, capitalize on the time that you have to say, okay, I'm going to make the Mozart clarinet concerto. That's going to be my COVID project. I'm going to like really just take it apart and like polish it, or whatever excerpt, or anything like that. I would just say, find what you want to do and just go for it, and don't like hesitate to ask for help along the way.
Awesome. Most things have been said. I agree. The never give up, just as was mentioned earlier, I'd say a large portion of our people that win auditions have not been, that was not their first audition. That was not even their first Army Band audition. It's people you start to know and they start learning it. And she just mentioned, Laura just said a second ago, she took 13, lost 12, won 1. The other 12 don't matter. She now has a job for the rest of her life. So she kept going. She got that one, and she's set. It's all you need to do. The biggest thing that I was going to add that I hadn't said yet, I kind of tell everyone that reaches out to me. I try and drill it into all my students at George Mason as well. Not to be the old man, but since I am the old active duty man here by a couple of years, use the technology that's out there. I know it's been mentioned, but like, we were talking about wanting to sound like the Marine Band if you're auditioning for the Marine Band or the Army Band. Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music. I mean, you can find every recording of every march, anything on the audition list by that band already. It's there. It's just, if you really, really want a job and really want to put in the time, it's very easy to do the research and the work. You just got to go do it. It's all right there. Not to be the cranky old man, but I wish I had that stuff. I didn't have that. Like maybe I had an old, LP or maybe even a CD that had just come out of, the Army Band. I remember looking for excerpts for the Army Band and I couldn't find it because they didn't have it. And now we have everything recorded at the click on my phone. I can find it in 2 seconds. So just use those resources. I mean, if it's something you really and truly want, everything combined, don't stop, do the research, do the work, make it your priority, and it will happen. It really will. And if that's what you do and you focus on day in and day out, it's going to work out.
Thank you. Joe, do you have any final words you'd like to say?
I just need to thank all of you. Enlightening, inspiring, and passionate. I loved your stories that will be etched in my mind forever. We all have them, but I can't imagine having them in the manner that you all do, in the capacity that you serve a greater thing than just yourself. I feel that way as a teacher, but you have all really coalesced what you do so well to make us just really appreciate your time. And I'm inspired. I'm excited that I have the opportunity to know people as giftedly talented as you all, and I'm just thankful. So that's what I have to say, and I really appreciate your time today so much.
Thanks, Joe. I was about to say everything that Joe just said, but my heart expanded today listening to you all. And I think, Frankie, you know how long I've known you, and I'm sorry to see where you've come from when I met you when you were 13, just how mature you speak and how selfless it is so beautiful. Laura, your stick-with-itness. So many times I talked to you in the lobby. I came in second to the Marines or whatever. I was in the finals and I came in second, whatever it was. All these auditions that we would unpack, and I just wanted to give you the biggest hug and say, you're so awesome. You're going to get there. And I think I told you that. Just stay with it and keep doing it. And the example that you shared in our ensemble here for many, many, many years, the leadership, the doing it, the steadfastness, the not fussing, the great person, the support. So awesome. Ryan, I met you, I don't remember, where's it, in Salt Lake City? Is that where we met?
In Utah and in Virginia too. We ended up on a couple of things at the same time, which I was so grateful for.
I was so grateful too. It's so evident when you speak how beautiful a person you are, and your skill set is so unique in our field too, and it's something I exceptionally value. And I'm so glad you're one of the leaders of that group, because there's no way your modeling can't be making a difference just by being the person that you are. So thanks for that. Kevin, I've gotten to know you more. I knew you at Michigan, and I've gotten to know you more in some of our Friday night hangs that we do online with a bunch of very, very, very famous brass players and a couple conductors. I'm not sure why I'm in there, but it's really joyful to get to know you better there and see how your life is moving forward. And I'm going to have the greatest day today, because I just shared it with you all, and I'm really, really blessed and thankful. And I know our listeners are too. So conservatory students, you've got some assignments on this. Get some good takeaways from this video and give us some wonderful summaries. And then those of you that are watching us just in general on our YouTube channel, we're thankful for you giving any time that we know you don't have to spend with us. We encourage you to come back next week for our discussions on creating your own path with some just stellar artists, dancers, composers that are going to be joining us for that as well. So we're thankful. You have a good rest of your day. If you're watching this at night, I hope you sleep well tonight. And if you're watching in the morning, I hope you have a great day too. To everybody, thank you, and be well.